On today's episode of The Ango Show, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about WWE introducing new championship belts. Plus, I got some huge news surrounding a major plan for a TNA star in WWE and so much more. It's all coming up right here on The Ango Show. Yes. All right, guys, I want to kick things off talking about Money in the Bank. We all know the bottom line for a company, and any company, it's not just a wrestling company, but any company that we talk about, it's always about the money. And for WWE, they have been having a huge streak of sellouts, and just overall, the metrics are incredibly hot. And I think obviously we know that's due to the increase in production. That's the increase in creativity. The company is thriving, and that was no different for Money in the Bank. Obviously, they were in Canada, and TKO has revealed today that the company did actually have the highest grossing WWE arena event in Canada in company history. This is just incredible stuff. I mean, WWE right now, it's obviously very hot, and we don't really know how long this will last. We don't know what kind of changes to expect. But what I do know is that WWE for right now is incredibly hot, and it's worth talking about because we can sit here and go back and forth about creative, WWE, AEW, and all of these different companies. But at the same time, too, there is a huge initiative with TKO taking WWE to brand new heights. And when I see what is playing out in front of us, I have a very strong feeling we are looking at a totally different audience than years before. Now, also, I do want to point out, I didn't watch Money in the Bank live. I was celebrating my 4th of July weekend festivities. I did watch it back after. I stayed away from social media. I didn't see spoilers. So I watched it in real time. I didn't get any outside opinions. And I thought the pay-per-view was actually good. Like, I thought the creative direction that they went with was good. The booking was good. At the same time, I could acknowledge the botches. I could acknowledge the mistakes and the mishaps, right? But that's just part of a live television show. Like that, those things will happen. And obviously it sucks. And, you know, if you go on social media, the perception of it obviously changes things. But in terms of booking and the creative decisions made, I thought it was a very good way of going about it. Now, I do want to point out, while we're talking about Money in the Bank, the PLE should go away. WWE revealed this past weekend that WWE Bad Blood is coming back, and it's happening in October of 2024. It's obviously a classic pay-per-view. WWE bringing it back is great. I want to see Money in the Bank go away as a pay-per-view. I've said this so many times on this channel. I'm not a huge fan of gimmick matches being a title for a pay-per-view. Hell in a Cell, I thought was whack. Elimination Chamber, I thought was whack. And Money in the Bank, I feel like the Money in the Bank ladder matches should take place at WrestleMania like the old days, and then the Money in the Bank pay-per-view could be replaced by something else. We'll see if WWE ever makes a decision on that, but I do get a feeling that maybe WWE could be headed towards that direction. Let's talk about Joe Hendry. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very interesting topic because Joe Hendry got eliminated in the number one contender for the NXT Championship Battle Royal, and everybody had a huge uproar. They're like, why did this happen? Then we saw it carry over into TNA with Frankie Kazarian. A lot of people were wondering what's going to happen. Then at the end of NXT Heatwave, we had something really awesome happen because Ethan Page won the NXT Championship. And because Ethan Page won the NXT Championship, everybody thought the show was over. But in WWE fashion, they had something happen after the copyright logo, and that was Joe Hendry's face appearing. Now remember, if you say his name, he appears. Joe Hendry and NXT clearly have been building up to something. We saw the behind the scenes video with Joe Hendry getting pissed at Shawn Michaels weeks ago. Now we have some news surrounding Joe Hendry, and I want to give a shout out to Fightful Select. Corey Brennan has reported that there are plans to use Joe Hendry heavily in the coming weeks and months. WWE sources said they were looking to focus on his ability to go viral following his first appearance, with small teases for him. Fans should also expect more blink and you miss it teases leading up to his next appearance, which obviously we don't know when that's going to happen. Now, one thing that was also interesting was the report also noted if WWE would have any interest in him when his TNA deals expires, and basically the response was, who wouldn't be? A lot to unpack here, but here's the thing. Joe Hendry is a hell of a talent, and I like what Joe Hendry is doing in TNA. And quite honestly, like, I'm glad that Joe Hendry is getting looked at by WWE. At the same time, too, would WWE be looking at Joe Hendry if he didn't have like the catchiest theme song that completely went viral, right? Would WWE not be interested in him if he wasn't so popular the way he is? Because his whole thing blew up on social media. And then, of course, we see Joe on NXT television. And I'm just curious if maybe WWE, only became interested because of that. But also, I do want to admit, I do have a fear, and that is I don't want WWE to do what AEW did to New Japan, which is taking the top guys from TNA when their contracts expire. And I really hope that maybe Joe Hendry can be in TNA, stay in TNA, but at the same time, too, work for WWE at the same time, whether that's the main roster or NXT. A talent share is beneficial when they can actually do both, and when you could fit them into storylines in both shows and somehow make it work creatively. It's difficult with Joe Hendry because TNA is not live, whereas WWE is live. So TNA is obviously taped in advance, WWE isn't. But I don't want to see WWE just keep taking talents from TNA after their deals expire, because I feel like it hurts TNA in the long run. And if you know anything about me, I want to see the healthiest version of the industry possible. Now it's time to talk about new championship belts coming to WWE, because this has been a discussion as of late. PWN has reported that WWE's Intercontinental Championship and United States Championship belts were in the works for the main roster for the women. Fightful Select later then reported that the idea was being discussed, and although the images that were being floated around social media were simply AI art and not actual designs, it is something that is actually in the works. And also Dave Meltzer is now chiming in on this and saying that there is going to be 2 new championships, one for each brand, Raw and SmackDown. Obviously I've seen the AI art and I don't like it, so if you guys seen the ones floating around, you guys will know exactly what I mean. I also think it is a little bit lack of creativity when you're introducing Intercontinental and United States Championship belts. I feel like you should just introduce entirely new concepts for the women. But yes, we have been talking about mid-card championship belts for women for a very long time on this channel. I mean, I think I go far back as like a year and a half ago talking about the idea even being brought up. Now we're getting closer and closer to that reality. And truth be told, I think it is the right decision for WWE to do it. Plus, if you saw Kalani Jordan and Sol Ruka in NXT, you can already see the benefit at NXT Heatwave having a women's North American championship on the brand. So now if WWE implements that into the main roster, I hope it works out. Plenty of great women in the title picture, but it is important to acknowledge that maybe we could be getting to the point where there's too many titles. And I think the only way that this gets solved is by WWE having a more balanced booking. Now, WWE's women's roster is great. And, when it comes to the championship, like the main championship, the world championship, I think they do fine, but I think sometimes that undercard just doesn't get enough love as they should, and therefore I would highly suggest that WWE really balances out the roster here and really has an idea of who they want as champions, and not just having them defending their belt at random times, but instead actually giving them prominent storylines. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show.